Hello, welcome to Comics Without Capes, where I chat about comics without superheroes. Today, I wanted to chat about a graphic memoir that I read recently and really enjoyed, thought was really well done, and that is All Our Ordinary Stories, a multi-generational family odyssey by Teresa Wong. I can't 100% remember where I found this book. I think it was on a book list of some sort. I also might have just seen somebody recommend it somewhere. I'm not sure, but either way, I am so glad that I did give this a read. This book is essentially looking at Teresa's relationships with her parents and trying to kind of unravel some of the disconnect she feels with her parents, trying to address that by looking at her family's history from different points in time. Both of Teresa's parents are Chinese immigrants to Canada, and they moved to Alberta, Canada to kind of start their life, have their family. They met in Canada, but they both separately kind of went on very similar journeys. Both of Teresa's parents escaped China during the Cultural Revolution, swimming from China to Hong Kong. They left behind pretty much everything and went on this journey. And the way that her parents kind of talk about that time, everybody did it. It was just ordinary. Yeah, we did it. It's done. It's in the past. Like that's the story. So there's this desire to kind of understand like what they went through more, but there's also the limitations of what can be communicated due to language barriers. There's things like the limitations in what people share and how much detail they want to give in, how they revisit painful memories, how they talk about making decisions like that, literally risking your life to try and basically start your life over. So this book, All Our Ordinary Stories, looks at some of the history stuff, and then it also looks at Teresa's own upbringing, her history growing up in Canada, that being the only home that she really knows, but also knowing her family's history a little bit. She also does not have a great concept of the language that her parents speak. So she knows enough to kind of translate some things, but some things are kind of lost in translation a bit. That's really especially highlighted in terms of talking about emotional stuff about how you're doing internally, how to verbalize that stuff. She really highlights that disconnect in language and understanding, and kind of some of that regret in dropping learning all of that when she was a child and trying to kind of learn a little bit more as an adult, but never feeling like her understanding of Cantonese was that strong. Even though I have a very different family history, I have family who my great grandparents or my grandparents were kind of the ones to move to Canada from very different places in the world than Teresa's parents. I still have a lot of that history understanding that I wish I knew more about. I wish I understood a little bit more about my grandparents' struggles, the things that they did. And there's certain things that I can ask or try and figure out, but there's certain things where the people that you may have wanted to ask have already passed away. Even though there's so much that's very different from my family's history and her family's history, and even though Teresa and I grow up very differently, I found I could relate so much to that parental and family disconnect, where you're kind of questioning, what things kind of keep you from feeling as connected as you would like to be, what things about your family's broader history add to the way that people communicate, the things people share, the things people don't share. I thought it was just so relatable on a very human level. I think there's a lot of people who could relate to this book. And of course, there is a lot of that stuff that I've never experienced, like pressures that are on immigrant children that I definitely did not have myself. I did not experience crazy racism in Canada, which there has been loads of racism against Asian populations in Canada for quite a long time. It also addresses intergenerational ripples or effects that we do end up kind of feeling, even if it's not traumatic, it's still stuff that gets from one place to another. And I feel like this book really illustrated that well. I liked the visuals of this book. The drawings are fairly simple, I would say, in their style. I think they're really meant to communicate, and they do that very well. So you've got fairly simple in terms of the detailing. I really liked the um, use of blank space in this book to illustrate disconnect. I thought that was done so well in here. We have things like this where there's what she's saying and the disconnect between what she wants to say and how she cannot say it to her mom. So Teresa Wong kind of fell into doing comics um, for her books, basically. She wrote one memoir previous to this, and that one's on postpartum depression. That one she like just kind of stumbled into the necessity of the graphic medium and of her needing to illustrate it because it was so freaking personal. And this one, she did do like a course prior to doing this book. So I think she, before that, really didn't have like any training, didn't really know what the heck she was doing. With this one, she's got a little bit more understanding, I think, of the formatting aspects of comics. And she really does use that to her advantage, I think, in this book. I have not read her first one. I would like to give that one a peruse just to kind of even have a comparison in terms of her style and how things have maybe changed between the two books. That would be something I find interesting. I also really liked the way that there was some repetition that worked really well with looking at stories. Really, like, our life is just built up of stories all over, right? We don't really have a start point or an end point. Sure, you could say like your birth is the beginning of your story, but really, is somebody's birth the beginning of the story, or is it like generations and generations before? What is the actual beginning? So she starts a few of the like main chapters where she's looking at a different time or a different situation as like the main lens. She starts it saying, "This is not the beginning, but it is a beginning," which is as good a place to start as any. I really liked that. For me, there was a lot of history stuff that I didn't know about the kind of Cultural Revolution side of things in China. I didn't know a ton about that stuff, so it was a good little glimpse into some of that history stuff. Overall, I thought it was a really beautiful book. It's also kind of got this element of just making peace with where she's at with her family and making peace with the things that she may not be able to change about her relationship with her parents, but what things she can kind of take going forward. I know graphic memoirs often have a bad rap for being really self absorbed and narcissistic, and I don't really believe that. I think there are definitely some that are that way, but the comic medium, and especially for memoirs, I think is so powerful, and I really hope people do give other memoirs that are telling important stories. I hope they do give them a little bit more of a chance because I think they are such a lovely way of communicating people's stories and things that really matter to them, and give us this angle to look at things that is really so it's so beautifully like directed by a person, and I appreciate that so much. So if you have not heard of this one yet, I highly recommend giving this one a go. Thanks, take care, bye.